Welcome back. Let's look further into the iniquitous position the banks occupy. Firstly, let us be clear. The banks aren't using their money. They're using ours. We are driven to using banks as all essential outgoings are direct debits ranging from utility bills to mobile phones, and all wages and pensions have to be paid through them. So what is the scale of the money they're receiving from us? The UK government's own figures following the 2007 annual survey shows there are over 30 million people working in the UK, and the average take-home pay is £457 per week across all wage scales. Just multiplying these figures together shows the banks are collecting £14 billion each week just transacting the working population's wages. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't include the vast sums they handle on behalf of businesses throughout the country, which dwarfs the wage bills. Add to this the individual savings and company bank deposits they are holding, and the amounts become astronomical. With millions of customers and a huge cash pile, just a £1 increase in their charges or a 0.25 percentage point on the interest rate can provide billions of additional income for the banks and replenish their cash mine. Are banks therefore a bad thing? I'm not suggesting that for a moment, and the days of keeping our wealth under the mattress are long gone. But having given the banks this monopoly on our money, if they use their power indiscriminately or recklessly, the repercussions can be catastrophic. And this is what has just happened. And it goes on happening. Take just two recent examples of bank excesses. They have levied draconian penalties on customers for going as little as £1 overdrawn for just 24 hours. Sometimes this penalty could be £35 or more, placing their customer in an even more difficult position. This was further highlighted by the recent case of the student who accidentally left her current account 80p overdrawn after making a deposit. By the time the bank had finished levying their penalties and charges, she finished owing £400. It took the courts to determine this practice was wholly unjustified, and as a result banks had to refund hundreds of millions to their customers going back 7 years. But this should have not been for the courts to decide. We have a regulator, the Financial Services Authority, appointed to ensure this cannot happen. However, this toothless tiger simply stood by and watched as it all happened and then ran for cover once their ineffectiveness had been exposed. But surely, you ask, aren't banks supposed to be financial experts? I only wish it were true. If this foolhardy lending hadn't happened, we wouldn't have had the present credit squeeze which drove Northern Rock and several other banks in Europe and the USA to the brink of bankruptcy. You and I save, once again, from this impending disaster. Yes, having loaned our money indiscriminately, they then demanded more of it to plug their losses and ensure they stay in business, so they can generate bigger profits and, believe it or not, pay bonuses to some of their top executives. The figures just out reveal that the major UK banks made £4.3 billion profit at the half-year mark, up £500 million from the same period last year. How? By taking more of our money. Wouldn't it be nice if we all had a bottomless well of cash in our back gardens which we could go to whenever we ran short? No one need ever worry about bankruptcy, and you could spend lavishly without fear of ever running short. Companies need never bother about insolvency but could simply put it down to experience and pull up another bucket load of cash. That is precisely what the banks have at their disposal, and this is what sets them apart from ordinary companies. Because modern society is driven to use banks and their credit cards, it disguises the incompetence and myopia of many individuals who run the banking industry. Although often with little talent except an ability to squander our money, they also know they occupy a unique position. They are never going to be held accountable for their actions. But you might ask, aren't we as individuals responsible for our own actions? course we are. But to many people, financial planning is not their strongest card. And if a respected bank encourages them to borrow large sums to purchase a house or extension, they trust them to have done the calculations correctly, or surely they wouldn't be offering to lend it. For the young couple desperate to get on the housing market, they are always easy prey to take something which appears to be to their advantage, without giving due consideration to the repercussions if things go wrong. If they do, the same banks will turn on the very people they sucked into their web in the first place, by increasing the interest rates or seeking instant repayment of the loan. If you are unable to meet either of these demands, they will seize your property or business and put you out to grass, often without considering the alternative of extending the repayment period to retain the same monthly premiums. And what is the Financial Services Authority doing about it? You've guessed. Stunned in the headlights, they do nothing. Presently in the UK alone, house repossessions are running at 700 every week. That's over 40% up on last year, and in 6 months' time this is expected to rise to around 1,000 every week. That is 1,000 families losing a roof over their heads every week. But that is only a third of what the banks apply to the courts for. With the inevitable drop in demand and reducing house prices, people are once again finding themselves in negative equity, where their mortgage to the bank exceeds the value of their home. Many think that by locking the front door and leaving the key with the bank, they will escape their worries. But the bank will merely sell the property for whatever they can get for it in the depressed market, and you are still liable for the shortfall, which they will pursue you for relentlessly. Why didn't they allow you to stay there, to continue making the payments you could afford until the market conditions improve? Which they will. Some people never recover, and others become so depressed they finish by taking their own lives.